hybrid training gym, FitWorkz in DeKalb, Illinois. I got an interesting text today from one of our member clients regarding low-carb diets. Do they work better than low-fat diets? And then also a link discussing that of some fairly recent research by no less than, it was a study at Harvard, comparing and contrasting low-carb versus low-fat diets for weight loss, and then also digging a little deeper, taking a look at heart health and diabetes. My 2 cents, my opinion, what have you. Way back once upon a time when I got started in this, and some of this is going to sound really familiar for those of you that are interested in losing weight, trying to lose weight, or that have successfully lost weight and kept it off for any length of time. Way back in the 90s, you had to go to the grocery store to see what was hot, what was the fad, what everybody was doing for health, wellness, weight loss. And at that point, it was really all about weight loss. There wasn't as much by the way of health and wellness. Everything was weight loss. I mean, you can go down the aisle and it was lined with green boxes and fat-free snack wells, on and on and on. And the approach to weight loss was cut calories via eliminating fat from the diet. Another popular belief for late 80s into the 90s was if we cut the fat out of the American diet, we'll take giant leaps in terms of progress for improving heart health, reducing cardiovascular disease, reducing death, illness, whatever, from heart disease, cardiovascular disease, stroke, heart attack, so on and so forth. I was a product of that area. That's what kind of got me to where I am today, because it didn't work. I tried the low-fat approach. I felt like a bag of garbage. I did lots of cardio. I counted calories. And the result was I was actually gaining fat. I was tired. I was miserable, constantly craving things, not to mention the fact that I was obsessing about the numbers as they related to calories and fat grams, okay? Around that time, I started to learn what today is turned into Eat by Color. And I also had an opportunity to talk to people. And I'll never forget, I had a conversation with a guy who was in his 50s at the time. He had said, hey, wow, you know what? I experienced something similar. I tried that low-fat approach, and I actually gained weight. And then I went on Atkins. We're going to talk more about Atkins in a minute. I went on Atkins, and I lost all this weight. And it was a piece of cake. I kept it off. The cravings went away. And I said, well, why did you do that? What made you want to actually go on a low-fat diet, Bob? And he said, well, he goes, my wife had suggested for heart health for me and long-term health of our kids, maybe we should go on a low-fat diet. And he goes, and it had the opposite effect. I didn't improve my heart health, according to my doctor, and I actually saw the scale go up. And I was craving stuff all the time. It was the most bizarre thing. And I said, wow, that's exactly what I experienced. Here's my 2 cents. So low carb versus low fat. At the end of the day, what matters is whether or not you can stick with it. So if it works for 21 days, you better be able to keep doing it at day 22. If it works for 42 days or 6 weeks, you got to be able to keep doing it at 43 days or at week 7. Because if you lose 10, 20, 30 pounds and you can't keep doing what you're doing, it doesn't matter whether it's low carb or low fat, you're going to gain the weight back because you're not going to be able to eat that way the rest of your life. So the real litmus paper test, as we call it, is can you do it the rest of your life? And that's where Eat by Color is really more lifestyle and not a diet. And lifestyle means you can stick with it. You can do it forever. You're not fixated and obsessed about any numbers. It's just lifestyle, and it just happens on a daily basis. It's seamless, and you don't have to think about it. Looking at the Harvard study here, lo and behold, a low-carb diet may help people lose weight more quickly than a low-fat diet. And here's the key thing. And it may help them maintain the weight loss. That's been our experience too. Having worked with thousands of clients in the last 15 years, filled many file cabinets like that one right there covered with Post-it notes. Thank you, staff, for making my birthday awesome.
Got a question.
Yeah.
So you're saying that doing the Atkins diet is okay if you can stick with it, or other such diets?
We're going to come back and talk a little bit to the Atkins in a second, Kevin. But based on our experience, what we've seen, many find it easier. Not all, okay? Not all. But many, and I'd say 70 or 80% of the clients we've had a chance to work with, do better on lower carb diets, and they do better in it. Maybe it's because they stay fuller longer because protein takes longer to digest. Maybe they stay fuller longer because of the fat content of the meals. Maybe they don't get the up and down with blood sugar, and with it, the craving for more higher carb foods. I don't know, but at the end of the day, most people end up saying it's easier to stick with. There's that litmus paper. That means they can do it long term. So our experience in the real world echoes what's in the Harvard study. To speak to the Atkins diet, Kevin, that's a great question. And I remember back in the 90s, like when I was talking to Bob, who I mentioned earlier, back then Atkins was all about lots of bacon, whole eggs, butter, load up on junk food, bad for you, high fat foods. And part 2 of the Harvard study looked at low carb diets and heart disease. And ironically, the data seems to suggest from the study that the lower carb diets, if they're vegetable sources of proteins and fats, tend to fare better in terms of heart health. And this too we've seen. If you eat less carbs, especially processed carbs and alcohol, we don't see triglycerides as high. Now, I'm not playing doctor, I'm not prescribing things, I'm not practicing medicine, I'm just reporting what we've seen. So the processed garbage carbs, impaired liver function, triglycerides go up, or actually they're providing the triglycerides or whatever. That in turn impairs your cholesterol profile, and pretty soon total cholesterol goes up, bad cholesterol goes up, good cholesterol goes down. In regards to Atkins, back in the 90s, with the high bacon, high egg, high butter, high animal fat, like I remember doing a zero carb diet and eating pork rinds, which they're terrible. That's junk. That's what everybody did for Atkins. I think it's going to be hard to do that long term, but if you do quote unquote Atkins, which is going to be lower carb, higher protein, higher fat, and you're eating lean meats, you're not buying the tube of 80-20 ground beef, but you're eating lean meats, whether it's red meat, poultry, chicken, fish. You're eating lots of vegetables. You're getting adequate amounts of fiber. Because back in like the late 80s and 90s, when someone did Atkins, they didn't really eat many vegetables. It was all high-fat meats. But I think making Atkins better would be including lots and lots of vegetables. And for the most part, if you can grow it in your backyard, in a garden, you can have all you want of. Exception being things like corn, peas, and some of the beans. But for the most part, all the vegetables you want and eat by color, we label that a free food. It's in the green group. Green means more. Just like going through an intersection. Green means go. Go ahead and have the vegetables. I think that makes Atkins a lot better. The other thing is, I don't think you need to be on zero carb. When we try and do Atkins as a zero carb approach, we're setting ourselves up for failure. You're going to go to that birthday party and have cake. You're going to have that beer. You're going to have the glass of wine. You're going to occasionally want to have pasta. You're going to occasionally want to have sushi or rolls, and you're going to want to have the white rice or whatever. I mean, pick your pleasure. Whatever it is in the carb world, you're probably going to have it at some point in time. And to completely eliminate it via a true Atkins diet, I think you're setting yourself up for failure. Any other questions? That was a good question. That's often glossed over, not paid much attention to with Atkins, and that is that, Atkins didn't say don't have green leafy vegetables. The original approach, the original Atkins was cut back, eliminate what we used to call complex carbs or starches. And again, I don't think you need to do that. I think that's too extreme. Too extreme means you won't stick with it. And by the way, the knuckleheads using the word keto or ketogenic diets, a ketogenic diet is not high protein. So the dinglings talking about eating nothing but fish and proteins and broccoli, that is not a ketogenic diet. Stop saying stuff like that. You're making yourself look stupid. So again, the Harvard study kind of supports what we see in the real world here, at least in DeKalb, Illinois, with our clients online. Those that do a lower carb diet, it tends to be easier for them, and they tend to be able to stick with it longer. It's not to say everybody that's true, but most of the people. And I also would agree with what the study says, although I'd like to look a little deeper when they compare heart health and the low carb with vegetable sources of protein and fat. I'd like to know if they're comparing that to low carb with healthy animal sources of fats and protein, or is it going to be the 80-20 ground beef in a tube, pork rinds from the discount store, lots of mayo and other high-fat, bad-for-you foods? Or are they looking at the lean meats, 99% lean turkey breast, chicken breast, fish, olive oils, flax oils, walnuts, almonds, cashews? Are they looking at those things, or are they just, it's people eating low carb and then loading up on bacon, eggs, and butter? Because I suspect that, and this is what we've seen, I've seen personally, if you're actually making better choices on your animal proteins and fats, triglycerides, lipids, your cholesterol, we tend to see that in a healthy range. We tend to see blood pressure, healthy range. We tend to see cardiac recovery, very healthy range. We also tend to see heart rate in a healthy range. Anybody else?
Nope.
Ray Minkowski, sitting at Hybrid Training Gym, FitWorkz in DeKalb, Illinois, author of the book Eat by Color. If you want a better approach, make Atkins better, check out Eat by Color, because you don't have to completely eliminate carbs or any food group for that matter. Thanks for tuning in.